So I think one of the big selling points for Kent Hughes as GM of the Montreal Canadiens right now is the fact that him and his squad have gotten some good business done. At the end of the day, hockey is a business. It's there to make money, and money is for the players, money is for the executives, money is for the owners, but more importantly, you can say that Montreal's selection of players in the National Hockey League are actually making a lot less than they should be, comparative to other names around the NHL. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Uri Slafkovsky, Lane Hudson, Noah Dobson, all signing long-term and to dollar amounts that we can all reasonably say are much cheaper compared to the caliber of play that those dollar amounts would insinuate. I mean, Lane Hudson signed an 8-year deal that's cheaper than Luke Hughes, and that guy's struggling hard in New Jersey. There's a lot to like out of the Montreal Canadiens and the contracts they have, and you can chalk a lot of that up to Kent Hughes, his negotiations, the vibes of the team, the commitment that a lot of these players are exhibiting. We don't got any Mitch Marners or Austin Matthewses on the Montreal Canadiens, guys that want short-term contracts where they maximize the amount of money they get every single opportunity they get. No, there's none of that going on in Montreal. But it turns out we could be on the cusp of seeing even more Montreal contract victories. Because we have ourselves some reports that I wanted to dive into in regards to two folks on the second line. Let's go out there and read, firstly, what Pierre Maguire went out there and said about Habs forward Oliver Kapanen. Pierre Maguire believes that Cappy is going to get between $5 and $7 million a year on his next contract. Now, this article by Félix Forget on DansLesCoulisses.com says that Kapanen is having a fantastic rookie season with the Canadiens with 27 points in 46 games. It cites an episode of the Sick Podcast, the Habs vs. Canucks post-game show from last week, wherein Pierre Maguire was a guest on the program. This is where he mentioned that he thought that Kapanen could get a $5 to $7 million AAV contract, and honestly, when I read that number, my brain immediately went, oh really? That's kind of a lot, isn't it? But then when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? Oliver Kapanen's 22 years old. He's in his first NHL season, and he's on pace for 45 points. That's actually pretty solid. I mean, he is on pace for 27 goals on the year. If he does that, then you would reasonably assume that greater heights are apparent for him, right? There's a reasonable conclusion that says that Kapanen at age 25, 27, 28 is a much better player than he is now. That is, of course, unless he goes the Jesperi Kotkaniemi route as a Finnish center who has a really nice season as a rookie and then inevitably doesn't do anything with it. But Oliver Kapanen is a guy that had to work his way up to get here, and I do think there is a lot of upward growth possible for this guy, especially if he's playing with Demidov and Slafkovsky the entire time. I know Kapanen kind of got himself a difficult rep because earlier on in the season there were questions as to whether or not it was even the right move to play him full-time in the National Hockey League. There were questions about Josh Waugh and other wingers that could have been tossed out there into middle to bottom six roles. But once Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook got injured, it was like, okay, well, the Canadiens can't use Evans there. Evans ain't even available most of the time anymore. So yeah, what are they going to do? Play Joe Veleno, second-line center? Hell no, get Kapanen in here. Just give him the opportunity. As long as he's running with it, then that's what matters. And he's proved himself so far. He's been doing very well with 7 points in his last 10 games. Very streaky, though. Only 1 point in his last 5. But Oliver Kapanen making $5 to $7 million. Firstly, you could say that $7 million is a little high because of the fact that you have other Canadiens players making the same. Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky are all in the 7.5 plus range. But then again, it's like, you know, those contract extensions were signed before the cap went crazy this past offseason. Before we started seeing guys like Kyle Connor and Adrian Kempe getting $12 million, and before Kirill Kaprizov made 17. if we operate under the assumption that 12-5, 12-6, 13 is still the upper limit, then it's like, okay, well, 7 is a lot. But if you think about it like 17 is going to be the new high, all right, well, maybe 7 million for Kapanen ain't too bad. And even if it's not 7, if it's 6 or 5.5, that's honestly pretty reasonable. And the best part about all this is, if you wanted to say the Canadiens have some contracts to sign, yeah, guess what? There is another big one that can be signed soon. Oliver Kapanen's deal goes on till 2027, so he's able to sign an extension this summer. You know who else is able to sign an extension for this summer? Ivan Demidov. Take a look at this post made also on DonLesCoulisses.com. It's a quote from Eric Engels. I think Demidov will take a smaller salary to stay in Montreal for a long time. This was discussed by Engels on an episode of, what's the name of this show? Le Retour avec Martin Lemay. Ah, it's Martin Lemay's show, okay. With the culture that is taking root in Montreal, it seems that this scenario happening wouldn't really surprise me. Nice to see out of one of the Montreal Canadiens' main reporters, Ivan Demidov, and his extraordinary, exquisite, Calder, not necessarily leading, but Calder contending point production this season. He is a guy with 68 points as his projected pace. He is slightly under a point per game, and there is so much to enjoy about the way he sees the ice. He was already the best player on SKA St. Petersburg last year. He was already a player whose flight was the highest tracked flight in the world when he was coming to Montreal. We're not talking about any Cristiano Ronaldo. We're not talking about any ice show speed. We're not talking about Ken Golden. We're not talking about Tay-Tay. We're not talking about BTS or any of the other major celebrities in the world. We're talking about Ivan Demidov. His flight was the #1 tracked flight on the planet when he was leaving Russia to come to Montreal. And there are circumstances behind that as to why it was so exciting and so hyped up, because we didn't think he'd actually be able to do that last year. But now, hearing from Eric Engels that, yeah, he would probably be expecting it if Ivan Demidov had himself a reasonable offer, didn't just demand the moon and the stars from Montreal when it came to contract negotiations. We've seen other dudes totally demand everything. I mean, Mitch Marner is the easy example that everybody likes to point to. Artemi Panarin is another one as well. Sometimes you guys just want to get paid, and that's fine. But for Ivan Demidov, I think coming into a team like Montreal, it's very clear that this team is more than just about playing as a job. There's a certain level of camaraderie that I think exists with the Habs that doesn't really present itself with other NHL teams, and it's coming across in the exact way all of these guys are signing good contracts. Noah Dobson signed for 9.5, and you can say that's a little much, but considering the rest of the NHL's D-core shaping up, I mean, if you're paying Lane Hudson 8.8 and Dobson's making 9.5, I think if you just swapped those dollar amount AAVs, you would probably think it's perfect. So the fact that they're just making the other guy's amount really is like, all right, well, there's nothing really wrong with that. Again, Luke Hughes is making 9. You know who else is making 9? Darnell Nurse. There are a lot of guys who are so bad that don't make nearly the same amount of dollar per value as some of these Canadiens guys do. So, seems like Kapanen, seems like Demidov, they could be next in line. With that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about these contract negotiation extension conversations? What are your ideas on what these guys could cost? Oliver Kapanen, Ivan Demidov. Let me know in the comment section all your opinions. How do you feel about these ideas here? I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.